want to dig in heavily on this because the state's going to have to get past the defense motion for directed verdict when they rest. Let me bring back in our guest, criminal defense attorney Brian Dunn. He's also the managing partner of the Cochran Law Firm in Los Angeles. Brian, I know you perceive this as a big problem. We talked about it before the break. Tell me what specifically you think defense counsel ought to be doing when it comes time to make that motion for directed verdict when the state rests its case.
Well, basically, the defense is going to have some themes that they're going to always hammer back to, which in all cases center around the basic concept of this doesn't add up. They have not connected the dots. This is not something that can be proven beyond a reasonable doubt. There are too many holes here. And that basic theme, Julie, resonates through the minds of criminal defense attorneys in a lot of cases. I'm stuck with the feeling, though, that somehow I believe this particular man did something. And part of it may have to do with his courtroom demeanor. Part of it may have to do with the fact that we heard some evidence, I don't know if the jury did, that the victims believed that if anything was ever going to happen to them, this man would be responsible. He clearly seems to be kind of the master of the whole situation. He's got a very controlling appearance, controlling demeanor. But are they going to be able to do this? I think the defense has got a really good chance of winning this motion, Julie.
I'm with you there, Brian. And I love that you mentioned his courtroom appearance, because I wanted to ask you specifically about that. And and again, just analyzing this objectively, looking at him from day one, I didn't like the fact that he didn't have on a tie and a suit jacket and looked more polished. To me, he looks really sloppy. And when I think about what this guy was doing for a living, being a pilot, I mean, you know, airline pilots are always so impeccably dressed and so neat and tidy. Your thoughts on that? Do you think his attorneys maybe ought to, I mean, now it's kind of too late because we're halfway through this case, but I'm surprised they let him go into the courtroom like that.
Well, frankly, Julie, sometimes you can't control your guy.
Yeah,
and
this is true.
You know, this does happen. Where
Very true.
You tell him this and you tell him again and again, but at the end of the day, he's going to do what he's going to do. And he seems to have a demeanor that is kind of aloof. There have been a couple of times I've seen him appears to be glaring at some members of the jury or cutting his eyes at the jury, which is a huge no-no. He should just be really passive and just completely humble throughout the whole thing. And humility doesn't seem to be in his lexicon right now. And I don't think the attorneys can change it. That fact alone, oddly, can cause jurors to make you believe that you've got something to hide. And in a case like this, which is largely based on circumstantial evidence, they have to be very careful about things like that because this thing can get away from them.
Right. Great points. Yeah, I just, you know, that appearance is one thing, and you're right, you know, the glaring at the jury, you have to be so cognizant of that because even if the look isn't intended for them, right, it can come off that way if somebody's staring or, you know, looking with a furrowed brow or appearing to be angry. Yeah, it's problematic. I mean, optics, they matter. We know that they matter immensely. I mean, I used to, and I always say this, you know, in teaching trial advocacy, when you come in as an advocate, you have to be cognizant of how you're looking as well, because jurors will notice your shoes. I mean, they'll notice everything, and you know, yeah, don't they? I mean, they pick up on it all.
Yeah, and when
if you
you're
watch,
not,
you sit
when
to
you're
the
in the
wrong time.
bathroom,
Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead,
wherever
Brian.
you are, they'll see you.
Yeah, they see it.
In the parking lot, when you're at lunch, when you least expect it, you look up and you know juror number one is right in front of you, and in the you have to be, you know, really aware. And a defendant is the person they're going to be looking at the most because as time goes on, they formulate unconscious impressions. And this particular individual seems like he has maybe a narcissistic personality, very arrogant. He seems like he just believes he's above it all or believes he's smarter than everybody else. And that is the one thing you do not want to convey to a jury.
Right.
And yeah, so.
You want to be humble. Oh, absolutely. Something else, too, you said it made me think about what the state could have perhaps done better. And it's not too late for them because if we assume for the sake of analysis this will go to the jury, they could make the arguments in close. But that is about this defendant's past. I mean, being an Army Ranger, I keep thinking if I were on the side of the state, I would really play up the fact of what a trained individual this guy is. I mean, the high training and to have that kind of a designation, I mean, it's really quite an honor. It's hard to do. Not everybody who goes into the Army can have that designation. I mean, wow. I mean, it's impressive. And to think about knowing how to kill, being trained to do that, you would think they would have played up more of, made him almost out to, be somebody, oh my gosh, this guy is just so lethal because of, in and of itself, the way he's been trained to act for 30 years in service. And, don't let the pilot's uniform fool you. This is who this guy has been for 30 years on the battlefield. And you would think they would have told more of a story. No, it's like they completely forgot about that. Another missed opportunity.
There may be military on the jury. There may be some people from the military on this jury. And they don't want to, it could be, and again, I'm just speculating, but it could be that one of the reasons why the prosecution is not coming front and center with that is that military personnel now, and thankfully so, have a lot of esteem in the minds of jurors. This is something that is good that our country has gone to socially, where we respect the people who are in the service. If there are some military folks on that jury, that might cause them to side with him unconsciously because of the idea that they've been in the military as well. So that could be the only reason why. Otherwise, I agree with you completely. That should have been really played up. A ranger is a person that our nation has invested a lot in teaching how to kill.
Right, exactly. And you would think if they're going to put forth all these witnesses who are going to say we were afraid of him and said to look at him if anything happens to us because of this guy. And I mean, but here they just kind of glossed right over it. If I were on the side of the state, I would really not be confident right now. They've got to have some big evidence coming our way, huh, Brian? Because so far.
Everybody has to lose every once in a while. I mean, I can raise my hand. Can't win them all.
Oh, I hear you. No, same here. And and another thing that's also important to point out too, and I think, and this, you're such a seasoned trial attorney, Brian. I mean, these folks who are prosecuting this case, I mean, this is an assignment. You don't always have control of what you move forward with. It may be higher ups in the office who say, guess what? We know this case is a stinker, but you're going to try. I've tried many, cases that were stinkers, but for instance, my office wasn't going to enter into a plea agreement with a particular defendant, maybe because of the past history or whatever the deal was. And okay, these facts aren't great, and we know this person has a bad history, so going to move forward and try our best with the prosecution. And so that may be the case too. They may know it's not very strong, and maybe that's why they're trying it the way they are. I'm being told we're going to squeeze in a break. Brian Dunn, you are a pleasure. I want you to stay put right there. I want you to stay put at home. The jury should be back momentarily in this case. We're seeing a little bit of movement in the courtroom, but no word on that witness just yet. This is Court TV Live, your front row seat to justice.